welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Matt.
I'm Kiki.
So today we're going to be talking about French people and French things and France. So Kiki, have you ever been to France?
Actually, I have. I've been to France once to go and watch the Le Mans 24-hour race. But what was interesting about my last day in Paris was that I didn't know that the sun would go down at 11 p.m.
Wow.
And I was traveling alone. So I thought that was a great opportunity to use the daylight and to take the subway around Paris and see some of the great sights. You know, I got to see the Louvre, I got to see the Eiffel Tower, and I got to see Notre Dame all in one evening.
All in one? Wow, that's a short time to pack in all of the big sights of Paris because those take a while to see. It's such a big city.
Yeah. What about you?
I've been to France a few times, but I remember the first time I went as a backpacker. And just me and my friend, and we were staying in youth hostels and mostly just eating food that we bought from supermarkets, like eating like a baguette and some meat or some cheese for our meals. The last time I went to France, I went for that same friend I was backpacking with. It was his wedding in France, and they had actually booked a large old French house or a chateau to have the wedding in, and it was a beautiful mansion, huge house in the countryside, and it was a really cool experience to be back in France with my friend again, celebrating his wedding.
And that's really interesting because you guys went from backpackers together and then going to his wedding at a big chateau. That's awesome. Okay, well, today we are going to talk about French things. So let's find out what we're going to talk about in today's topic, French or false.
What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of France? The Eiffel Tower? Nice restaurants? Expensive fashion brands? Clearly, these are all part of French identity. However, there are many things that are French in name only. French fries come from France, right? After all, the clue is in the name. But surprisingly, some people say that they actually came from Belgium. One theory claims that American soldiers gave these fried potatoes their misleading name during the First World War. When these troops arrived in Belgium, they were introduced to the dish. As most people in this part of Belgium spoke French, the Americans called the food French fries, and the name stuck.
Hello everyone, we are looking at part one of an article called French or False. So this word false is something that means not true or not according to fact. So in this case, if it's French or false, is it something really French or is it false, as in not a real thing, not something that is true? So we have an example sentence, Tom gave a false name to the hotel, meaning he gave a name that was not his real name. He, for some reason, didn't want this hotel to know who he was.
Okay, so let's get into our article today. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of France? The Eiffel Tower? Nice restaurants? Expensive fashion brands? Clearly, these are all part of French identity. However, there are many things that are French in name only. Okay, so there are a lot of things that we know about French culture or things that come from France. We usually think high fashion, things that are very fancy, and French cuisine is usually very nice. And of course, we think about the Eiffel Tower, but there are a lot of things that have the word French in their name that might not be true.
Right. Let's find out. French fries come from France, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
After all, the clue is in the name. Okay. So the clue is in the name, meaning that there is some information or some hints in the name that allow you to solve this problem or mystery. So often when we use clue, we are talking about things that police officers or other law enforcement find that helps them to solve a crime or to solve a case. So for example, the police looked for clues at the scene of the crime. So in this case, the clue is in the name. You hear French fries, they must be French.
Yeah.
Right?
It has to be. That it's a hint, right? It's hinting you that these fries are from France. That's why they're called French fries, right? Well, let's check out our article. It continues by saying, but surprisingly, some people say that they actually came from Belgium. One theory claims that American soldiers gave these fried potatoes their misleading name during the First World War. Okay, so we're finding out that French fries actually come from Belgium. They don't come from France. And the reason why that we know them as French fries, a theory is that American soldiers, when they were there during the First World War or the Great War, they called these potatoes, these fried potatoes, using a misleading name. When something is misleading, it is to guide someone on kind of the wrong path to believe something. You're being misled. When you're being misled, you're kind of thinking that one thing is something, but it's actually not. Okay,
so that is a theory. So a theory is an idea about the reason that something happens. And these theories can be proven or disproven in some cases if you can find a way to test this idea. So, for example, I have a theory that reading makes you smarter. Okay, I think that one is testable. Maybe you could find out if that really is true. I think it probably is.
Yeah, sounds good.
When these troops arrived in Belgium, they were introduced to the dish meaning the food of fried potatoes. As most people in this part of Belgium spoke French, the Americans called the food French fries, and the name stuck.
Oh, okay, so this is a possibility of how this dish of fried potatoes got this name. It's because the Belgians, they were speaking French.
Right, so in parts of Belgium, they also speak French. It's not, they speak Flemish is one language of Belgium, and the other one is French, so they have a large French area of Belgium.
Okay, so the Americans, they called the dish, when the American troops were there, they called the dish French fries because the people that gave them this dish or introduced them to this dish, they were speaking French. And that's why they called these fries French fries. Now, a troop is basically somebody that is in the civil army or in the military. And usually they are a cavalry unit that is guided by a captain. So for example, they're soldiers. They're soldiers in a group, so you would call them a troop. And in this case, we're talking about the American troops or the American servicemen, the military men, when they were there during the First War. Okay, so an example would be the troops rested in the town as they waited for their next orders. Okay, so we've found out that when the American troops were in Belgium during the First World War or the Great War, they were introduced to fried potatoes.
Right, so that's one theory as to how they got that name, but it just turns out that these fried potatoes that everyone loves might, maybe shouldn't actually be called French fries. They should maybe be called Belgian fries.
Maybe.
All right, well, we're going to find more foods that might have been misnamed or mislabeled when we come back after the break.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。当你想到法国时，第一个想到的是什么呢？是埃菲尔铁塔、高级餐厅，还是时尚品牌呢？我们这2天的课程会介绍一些名字里面有法国，但是跟法国无关的东西。我们先补充一下 ，Kiki 老师在讲到法国食物时，他用到 cuisine 这个字 ，cuisine。Cuisine 它可以指一国或是某地区的菜肴，它也有烹饪的意思。那么课文第一个介绍的是 French fries。薯条，它的名字里面就有这个线索 French， 会让人误以为薯条是来自法国，可是其实它可能来自比利时。有一种说法声称，美国士兵在第1次世界大战期间为这些油炸马铃薯取了一个有误导性的名字。当这些部队抵达比利时的时候，他们初次接触到这道菜。那由于比利时这一区大多数的人都讲法文，这些美国人呢就把这个食物称为 French fries， 而这个名字就这样流传了下来。好，补充一下 ，Matt 老师刚刚有提到比利时使用的另一种语言是 Flemish， 有人把它翻译成法兰德斯语。那法兰德斯是比利时北部的一个荷兰语的地区。好，我们来看看课文单字 false。false 它是形容词，形容假的。那么 clue 它是名词，表示线索、提示。Matt 老师在讲到警方执法单位在找办案线索的时候，他用到 law enforcement， 就是指执法单位啊、执法部门。那下一个单字 theory， 它是指观点、说法，或是指理论、学说。我们再看到 troop 这个名词，它是指军队、部队、士兵。当这个意思解释时，常用复数形。那么 Kiki 老师这时候有提到 cavalry， cavalry， 它可以指骑兵，尤其是早期的骑兵。好，那这边2个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是 something comes to mind， 表示脑中浮现什么什么，记起想到某事。例如What comes to mind when you think of China？ 当你想到中国时，脑中浮现的是什么呢？那第2个介绍的是 introduce 的用法。首先，第一个它可以用来表达介绍、引荐，或者是使初次接触。用法是 introduce somebody to， 后面可以接人或事物，来表达说将某人事物介绍给某人，让某人初次体验、接触、认识到某事物。例如My friend introduced me to yoga 3 years ago. 我朋友在3年前让我接触到瑜伽。好，那第2个意思可以表达出引进、传入，用法是 introduce something to 再加一个地方，那就是指说把某事物引进某地方。它的被动句型会是 something be introduced to 再加一个地点。例如 The product was introduced to Japan in 2015. 那个产品于2015年被引进日本。好，接回到课文中。
Similarly, French toast also comes from outside of France. Historians have found a Roman recipe for the dish from the 4th century, before France was even a country. In fact, some believe that the name French toast doesn't refer to the country at all. The name may come from a man who was called Joseph French. He was known to cook the dish in the 1700s.
Welcome back. Before the break, we found out that sometimes when things are named French something, they might not actually come from France. And we got the example of French fries, okay? So there was a theory that it's not actually from France, but from Belgium instead. And that's when the American troops, when they were introduced to this dish, they called it French fries because of the Belgians that were speaking French. So how many other things that are out there that might be French, but actually not?
All right, well, let's find out. Similarly, French toast also comes from outside of France. Historians have found a Roman recipe for the dish from the 4th century, before France was even a country.
Wow, that is really crazy.
Right, so they found a recipe, a list of steps and ingredients about how to make some food. But yet, I wonder what the title was, because they couldn't have called it French toast, so it was just maybe eggy toast.
toast.
Okay, so this was, before France was even a country, so this dish has a much longer history than even France.
Right. And it was the historians that discovered this Roman recipe. So, what a historian is, it is a person that is an expert or someone that studies history, and particularly history of certain topics. So, all types of topics could have a historian. So, for example, you can have a historian that studies the history of the earth, of the planet. Okay, and you also have historians that specialize in different types of cultures or different countries. Okay, so it's somebody that is an expert in the history of something, of a topic. So for example, my father is a historian who knows all about ancient China. Okay, wow. So historians have discovered that French toast is not actually from France. It might be Roman. Okay, let's continue with our article. In fact, some believe that the name French toast doesn't refer to the country at all. Oh, that's interesting. The name may come from a man who was called Joseph French. He was known to cook the dish in the 1700s.
Okay, so a lot of interesting facts. So now I know that, when I go to a fast food restaurant, I should be ordering Belgian fries. And when I'm cooking my breakfast, I can say that I'm cooking Roman toast.
Right, and it's cooked by this chef French, Chef Joseph French. Okay, so today we've learned that just because something has the word French in front of it, it might not be from France at all. So we're going to find out more in part 2 of our article, French or False.
下一个要介绍的是好吃的 French toast 法式吐司。课文提到法式吐司也是来自法国以外的地区。历史学家有发现一份4世纪的古罗马食谱，所以呢，早在法国成为一个国家之前就有这种食物咯。那有些人认为法式吐司这个名字不是指国家，它也许是来自一位名叫 Joseph French 的人，他在18世纪以料理这道菜而闻名。好，这时候 Kiki 老师用到 chef 这个名词 chef，chef 它是指厨师，尤其是这种餐厅或饭店的厨师或者是主厨的意思。那么课文单字 historian 则是指历史学家。那这边一个重点，我们要进入文法时间。好，这边我们来介绍某人或某事物 be known to 加原形动词，可以表达大家都知道某人事物会怎么样怎么样。那这个 known 是过去分词当形容词用来表示知名的、出名的。例如 The king was known to be cruel， 大家都知道那位国王很残暴。好，那以上这些讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of France? The Eiffel Tower? Nice restaurants? Expensive fashion brands? Clearly, these are all part of French identity. However, there are many things that are French in name only. French fries come from France, right? After all, the clue is in the name. But surprisingly, some people say that they actually came from Belgium. One theory claims that American soldiers gave these fried potatoes their misleading name during the First World War. When these troops arrived in Belgium, they were introduced to the dish. As most people in this part of Belgium spoke French, the Americans called the food French fries, and the name stuck. Similarly, French toast also comes from outside of France. Historians have found a Roman recipe for the dish from the 4th century, before France was even a country. In fact, some believe that the name French toast doesn't refer to the country at all. The name may come from a man who was called Joseph French. He was known to cook the dish in the 1700s.
What's wrong?
I'm really worried about this project, Matt. It seems very complicated.
Oh, don't worry. I've done several similar projects before. It will be a walk in the park.
A walk in the park? We're not at a park. We're in the office and there's no time for a walk. We have this project to finish.
No, Karen. A walk in the park is an idiom. It means that something is very easy to do.
Hi everyone! Today's phrase is a walk in the park.
Yes, and it doesn't literally mean taking a walk in the park.
That's right. The phrase a walk in the park is used when something is very easy to do.
Imagine taking a walk in a park. It's really relaxing and pleasant, right?
You can use this phrase to refer to tasks or activities that require little effort. For example, this math problem is a walk in the park for me.
Another example could be, writing that report was a walk in the park. I could do it with my eyes closed.
Exactly. So we can also say learning this phrase is just a walk in the park. I'm sure you'd agree too.
And with that, we're done for today. See you next time.
Bye-bye.